Ghastly Hallows. I'm Pumpkin Jack, and I'm accompanied by.
Oh,
Red.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. We will get it right.
You guys got your cues, though. I'm proud of you.
Okay. Okay. Alphabetical order. Bolt goes first.
Bingo.
Alright, Bolt with Rolling Thunder, followed by.
And red.
Yeah, red. The red herring.
Red
So.
herring. That's my full name. Yeah. My full given name.
Yes. And today we got ourselves a bit of a mixed bag of weird shit that has been going on for the past few days, past few hours, and our main subject of the day. So, leading us into this one, I'm actually going to pass the mic over to Bolt so he can kind of help us get through this one. Bolt, floor is yours.
Why, thank you kindly, Pumpkin Jack. So the first topic on the agenda is concerns with cults. So I'm not sure many of you out there have had any experience of any kind with cults, whether you had the religious cults or in the business sense, MLMs. Yes, they do count as that. I don't care if anyone says otherwise.
The
You can
corporate
at me
cults.
on that. Corporate cults, and not the fun kind. But needless to say, yeah, that's the first topic we're coming out with, and it's just a funny jumping off point before I kind of open the floor out. So my personal experience with a cult-like type of personality, in regards to just someone I met recently in the past, like 2 or 3 years. That pandemic friendship that we all know and just know. Yeah,
That we all
that's
know
not.
and have neutral feelings about.
Yeah, not to, you can have good pandemic relationships, so you're friendly or otherwise, and then you have the rest.
Yeah, like most of the Dead by Daylight crew, I think, is not is a pretty decent group. We may all got to connect it through with the pandemic.
Yeah,
I'd say.
and I wish that game got better support, but whatever. That's neither here or there. Yeah, so I'm just gonna give a little bit of snippets of the relationship, red flags that I started to notice. Well, not started to notice, started to come to terms with. So yeah, if you ever have someone trying to tell you how to dress in a certain way, and to eat a certain type of lifestyle, whether or not it's healthy or otherwise, whether it's working out or just have a specific diet you're trying to work on, or you're trying to get into that nice new outfit that you bought on sale like a few months back. Yeah, that is, and it's all, and of course they tell you this unprompted. Yeah, that's a red flag. Another red flag is them telling you to try on skimpy outfits and then send pictures of yourself in them to them, again, unprompted. So yeah, that's just a little bit of my experience with like a cult like personality type of person. Yeah, I'm gonna open the floor to anyone else who kind of wanna share their experience with that type of um, I guess personality.
I've encountered three in my
Three.
lifetime. Three. The thing is, like, they're not a full blown, cult, right? Like Heaven's Gate or Helter Skelter. But one was trying to found a sect of Christianity. The other one was trying to found a group of people, basically that she was the boss of the friend group, and that everybody was going to be, everyone was going to be added on, but she was like management. Then the third one is someone, well, it's a mutual situation where it's like, we are still trying to be your friend, however you are not happy that we are putting in boundaries, and when the boundaries are not being met, we are standing up for ourselves, at which point there is a manipulation that kicks in, right? Like, we come back and we say, hey, that's not fucking cool, and then we're met with, well, I wish you would be. I wish you would think it's cool. I wish you would understand and try to make me happy. I wish you would. I wish you would make me happy, and I wish this would be a safe space for me to say whatever. I wish that this was a safe space for me to express myself and how I see that it's okay. And you guys are my friends, and you know, friends do that because you're my brother. I see you as a brother, type thing, and like
Classic.
all of that just kind of culminates into like what. I'm sitting there minding my business. We need to get you in shape. What? Why? Who are you to tell me to get in shape, dude? Like, I have a bunch of people out there that I can go ask for advice. Well, I'm going to go ask for you. Or, you know, other kinds of things where it's like the idea is I am in a position of wisdom that you're not. So you need to rely on me. And obviously, you know, when these things aren't met, you're met with like a very negative, very angry sort of reaction from the situation, and I'm assuming on purpose, act oblivious to the notion because they just want you to be under their thumb of control, where it's like they want us to be sitting there all day doing what they want, and they don't really understand nor wish to respect the boundaries that are in place, right? Like, I'll be very, very straightforward. I quit a lot of mainstream things about a year and a half ago. Right, Bolt? About a year and a half ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I
That sounds
quit.
right.
I quit in one.
Sounds like something a cult member would say.
Well, you know what it is? It when you wake up, right, it feels like you're in a cult, and it's not intentional, right? But like what happened was about a year ago, I got tired of watching the same stuff that I've been kind of watching between like the past 10 to 15 years, right? So like I didn't want to watch the MCU anymore because to me the Captain America Winter Soldier Falcon was a good ending point, right? I didn't really like Loki. I didn't really care for anybody else coming out. I've talked about that on here a few times. Like about a year or so ago, I stopped, right? And I didn't say you guys should stop watching. You guys are stupid. You guys. I didn't do that. I just stopped watching, right? And some people, somebody's commenting on that, and some people were really upset by this. It was like, how could you not? How could you not be there? How could you not want to see Shang-Chi? How could you not want to see Eternals? How could you not? How could you not want to see the Marvels? How could you not want to do this? I'm like, because I'm not interested, dude. Like it's not a big deal. I'm not telling you it sucks. It's a thing that people like to do and get together. I'm like, it's okay. Well, come on. You have to see Secret Wars. No, I don't. You have to see Fantastic Four. No, I don't. You know, like, and all of this is just met with like this shock, like how could you? And the second thing that happened was I also stopped watching here in North America, right? Like I don't really like. I was watching it. That was a slow progress. I was watching WWE from about 2015, I want to say, late 2015, 2016-ish. I started watching it, and I started watching wrestling again around that time. And I noticed that I never liked WWE. I like the people that are there sometimes, but I never like their product. So it's like, for example, if you got a T-bone steak, but every time you order the T-bone steak, right, it comes out well done. That's what WWE is, right? Like, they have the meat, but they just don't know how to cook it. And after a while, like, I got pissed off of, like, getting my steak well done, right? Like, no, I don't want it. I want it medium rare. And you guys don't know how to cook. So, fuck you. I'm out of here, right? I'm not going to come back here anymore. Dude, this is where, like, my experiences come from. It's like, you say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I got phone calls, like, every fucking day. You want to watch the Royal Rumble? No. You want to watch Survivor Series? No. Did you see about? Did you see about Seth Rollins? No. Did you see? Adrian knows. Like, did you see about what this podcaster said on his podcast? Wow, I want to play a clip for you, and you're like, I don't want to hear it. So, and the thing is, like, when I told most people like I hate that company, a lot of people stopped sending me stuff because like there was somebody we knew, Red, that is a big fan of one of those girls over there. Like she's a big timer, and they treated her like crap when I was watching. Now because they got nobody left, they're treating her nice. I've heard this tall lady whose name I completely blanked out of my head. One of the viewers, you know who I'm talking about. She was a tall giant. She was a very like grungy punk rock attractive chick that everybody wanted to be with from Australia. Everybody loved this girl. And for me, it's like cool. It's cool she's over there, but I'm not gonna watch. I'm gonna support that. I watch my Japanese wrestling, and that's about it. And it's because it's like it's manageable. It's like 1 or 2 shows a month those guys do, and they call it a day. But that has
Tasteful.
been yeah, but that has been like a we must get this thing moving. We must get this thing on fire, right? All of this stuff has to get going. And we need you to do I need you to be here with me while I'm enjoying this because I can't enjoy this if you're not here type thing. And it's like this is fucking creepy now. It was funny for a few minutes. Rhea Ripley, that's who I was talking about, the girl, the lady. I'm not giving the AKA out. People can come and watch our stream when this goes up eventually to hear about the AKA. But yeah, thank you. But you know, this one was the most aggressive encounter. Most of the other ones, when I didn't buy into their shit, they kind of left me alone. It's like, all right, you're not an easy target. We're gonna call it a day. But the other ones, when they saw like this one is the one that just keeps finding its way back and again and again. It's like Michael Myers. You know, like you fucking shoot this guy and he just comes back. Did you ever see Halloween Ends or Halloween Kills?
I
Anybody
did
here?
not. No.
All right.
I have not either.
Uh,
No, the first of that reboot didn't really hook me.
I was okay with it, but like I still think it could have been better. But I did enjoy their cinematography. That kept bringing me back.
Mm.
So there's a scene where they pummel the ever loving crap out of Michael Myers, and then he just gets back up. That happened yesterday. Like we verbally tongue lashed this person, and they just back up again. Like just hopefully quietly waiting to see if Bolt
with
will
teeth.
Bolt will send those pictures and to see if I will sit down and watch Survivor Series, and it's just like, yeah, dude, shit in one hand and wish in the other, see which one fills up first. But that's my personal experience with cults, and I'm not versed very well in them, even though I've had experience on hand with them. But I want to know, like, if you guys have a little bit more of an insight, Red, if you have a better insight on it.
Well, nothing that you would call a cult, like very precisely a cult, but things that have been culty, kind of like what you guys have been talking about. So, Bolt, you mentioned MLMs before,
Yes.
the multi-level marketing organizations. I guess they're organizations, right? I've been approached by that kind of thing a few times, and I mean, many of us have the experience of, you get back in touch with someone from high school that you haven't talked with for maybe 15 years, and things seem to be going well. It's like you had a lot in common when you were in high school, and you're like, oh, this could be kind of like a new / old friendship, and then they say, hey, I've got some sort of business venture that I wonder if you're interested in. And you're like, oh god, here it goes.
The classic.
And that can be pretty. That can be that can be disappointing. But the reason why I liken that kind of thing to a cult is because of the more profound experience I've had with that sort of thing. So I was in 2015 kind of directionless. I was 25. I was working 3 jobs and still not getting enough hours. How about that? One of the jobs I was working was Starbucks. And this guy who's getting a coffee, he's picking it up at the counter. He says, would you be interested in some sort of business venture? And I mean, I don't really have a whole lot going on, and I'm getting frustrated about not making enough money. So I was exactly the sort of person that he was looking for. So I said, oh, sure. So I meet him at Panera, and he has this kind of slideshow thing on his computer
Oh, hell.
with so much vagueness. Like, so the one phrase that he kept harping on and keep returning to was financial independence. We have a program for you that will help you financial independence. Now, I didn't know what this term meant, and I still had no idea what it meant by the end of his presentation. And he says, I'd like to meet with you again with my business partner. And I'm still not quite catching on. You know, I don't have a lot of confidence at that point. So I'm like, oh, well, I mean, this is really high level stuff. Maybe I just don't get it yet. So I go in, and having talked with a few people about it, they encouraged me to be a little skeptical about it. And at the next meeting, I meet him and his business partner, and it's pretty much the same damn thing. They keep using the term financial independence again and again without telling me what the hell it means. And then, and not only that, but this is a business venture, right? Well, businesses provide some sort of service or have some sort of function. There's a why, and there's a why, a what, and a how on what an organization does. I didn't get any of that. So I just point blank asked this guy, okay, what is it that you do? What does the organization do? And he said, we'll get to that. And that was it. Boom. That was when I knew, get out right away.
Bail.
And
No, leader.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I did tell them, thanks, but no thanks. And yeah, and it took me a few years to kind of make the link between that sort of thing and cults, because that seems very culty, doesn't it? Like, you bring in someone, and you're kind of, and say you're an older guy, you bring in a younger person, you're taking them under your wing, you're gaining their trust, but you don't tell them everything. You don't tell them everything about what the organization or the group does by design. I could tell when he said we'll get to that it was the whole point. The whole point of the recruitment process was you don't tell them everything. And when I learned a little bit about how Scientology works, I'm like, oh wow, that's exactly like my experience with this MLM guy. Like, famously, they don't tell you everything about, like, the aliens and everything when they're recruiting you for
You mean Tom Cruise lied?
I'm not saying Tom Cruise lied. I'm saying he withheld important information. There's a very, very fine line.
So the absence of
A
truth.
line that's so fine that it doesn't really matter. But
I mean, well, the absence of truth is still considered a lie.
But
it's maybe a negative lie rather than a positive lie.
oh hell yeah.
Yeah. Right?
And yeah. No, I feel like there's more on your plate.
Well, so none of us have really talked about experiences with like a real on the nose cult. But there is a book that I know about. I haven't read it yet, but I listened to a podcast with the author. The author is Amanda Montell. She wrote a book called Cultish. And in the podcast that I've listened to her on, she talks about how there's cults and then there's cultiness. So, like, Heaven's Gate is a full-blown on-the-nose cult. They all they went all the way. They had all the nutty beliefs and just sort of all the things that you imagine when you think of a full blown cult.
But if
But
you
then
join, man, you get some free
those
Nike sneakers.
right, exactly.
That was a thing. That's not a joke. That was a thing.
Yes. Oh no, 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 no. They were all found wearing Nike sneakers. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but you think about, well, what makes a cult? You can find softer versions of that in things like MLMs, in things like fandoms, in things like political movements,
Oh
where
yeah.
it's not quite a cult. You know, they had. It's not like they're in a compound in Colombia, fully isolated from their families and no outside contact. But they are doing things like uh, putting peer pressure on each other, maybe discouraging you from being friends with people that don't share the beliefs of, us. So it's like there's degrees of cultiness out there.
And
Yeah.
oddly
Yeah, you
enough,
definitely touched something on what Morley Gray mentioned in the chat, like fandoms, because I'm not sure how you guys feel on it. Like, and that's why it always turned me off on like becoming like a fan or like something because of like it's a very slippery slope in my opinion. It's like yeah, fandoms is like a good like testing ground for like
Mm.
for like cultish type of things because it's like you can be very passionate about something, but then it's like if it's not held in check or held accountable, then you have like people just going full blown crazy and start doing things like stalking people, committing harm, whatever type of criminal acts. Is just like
Slenderman cult.
over something as simple as music, enjoying music. It's just wild.
Yeah.
Uh, so to the documentary, which Bolt mentioned earlier, I have actually encountered someone who actually believed in the concept of a twin flame, and they were very adamant that they were experiencing the twin flame phenomenon. That
What's that?
so you know how they
I think we
say
can back up.
so. Well, we'll back up in like 2 seconds, and I can give like the
Sure.
explanation that I heard, and
Yeah.
then Bolt has actually seen the documentary, which is a much more academic, concise explanation, probably. So,
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
I ran into someone a long time ago who believed that they met their twin flame, and a twin flame is this, to my understanding, other extension of your. It's like your soul, right? Like the same type of soul or something like that, and
Your divine partner, essentially.
sort of, yeah, like you're married in heaven with this person. That's your twin flame, right? It's not the one that you end up with. Twin flames are just like this person, and there's like this whole group of people on the internet that are going around pretty much trying to give their interpretation of the phenomenon, which is just an extreme fixation on a person, right? And
Mm.
sometimes the person doesn't even, they go like, well, he's my twin flame, but he doesn't know it yet. And they need to realize that they are. But then they're like, I love him, but then I hate them. But then I want to be with them. We want to make it work against all odds because we're married in heaven. It has to be. And it's like, you are aware of all the loaded language you're using, right? It's really heavy. Well, you just don't understand it. Like, oh, like, well, Bolt, you're about to be in company with this one. But I actually have met, like, with this, when I was just like, I was interested in hearing someone out. I always hear people out, right? And I think that's like my mortal flaw. I listen to everyone about a lot of stuff. But no, yes, these people actually did get in trouble. And this friend actually did get in legal trouble. I won't exactly give out too much details in case they ever stumble across this, but they went to stay with someone during lockdown. the person was doing something that they perceived to be spiritually corrupt. They asked the person to stop. The person didn't stop. The person then called the cops because they reacted crazy. He locked himself in his room and then called the cops because they thought that they were in danger. And then the person was escorted off they were escorted off of the out of the apartment. And these like people are sort of like enabling the behavior of this phenomenon, and this is like one of those things where it's like, I think another weird cult that is type of cult that is emerging right now in our generation is the virtual cult. And there are a few known examples already. There's one that Blame It on Jorge did a really great video. I'll actually upload the link on my Instagram and TikTok about the blood in blood out cult or something like that, where like they believe that they're by giving their blood on camera and posting on the internet, it's like a spiritual sacrifice to Satan or something like that. And yeah, and like these things are out there, and you got like people in the echo chamber that are like egging each other on. QAnon, right, where they are very adamant and militant about spreading the message of QAnon. Donald Trump being the figurehead in that one. And
Yeah.
I find that this is one of those things why I stay away from movements like that on the internet, because it's becoming
Yeah, where you've got that
yeah,
where
right,
you've got that like that closed loop of information.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
becoming more and more predominant in our day and age, where like people don't trust the news. Fine, the news is messed up in the past, but they're a much more credible source than getting some stuff off of. Oh, Final Fantasy House. Yes,
Oh my god!
the
Oh
Final
no, not
Fantasy
that!
House.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that
god!
was another one.
Let
The house with
oh
the
my!
people that thought they were video games, that they were video game characters.
I regret reading that.
Oh,
I regret reading
sure.
that
Oh,
one.
that one was some.
Oh.
That's its
Fill me
own.
in. I have no idea what this is.
Me or you, Red. Me or you, Bolt.
Yeah, you got this one.
All right. So this is all being told from like the summary of some guy posting about it. It's like a diary, right? It's out there where he needed a place to stay, so he went to stay with these people, and then he found out that they weren't just Final Fantasy VII role players
Or LARPers.
or LARPers,
The,
right?
yeah.
This was some shit that these guys wandered in. This guy wandered into, right? This is like a movie on its own. This like I'm surprised this never got made into a movie, but this one was
Not yet.
crazy. This guy
Not
walks.
yet.
This guy goes to a house, right, and everything is cool for like the first few days, but then he realizes that in the house they're all referring to each other as their LARP names, right? So if you ever play Final Fantasy VII, right, like there's a Cloud, a Tifa, Zack, uh,
Yeah, Sephiroth.
Sephiroth, right, and like in the house, this girl is assigning people characters, and at first it was like a fun RPG, but it gets out of control. After a while, she starts to tell them that no, they are in fact the characters that she assigned to them, because she has the ability to look into other realities and merge the souls with the video game characters to you to make you the character. I'm going to repeat that because I'm pretty sure your head fucking bobbled when I said it. She told the people in the house that she could look into other universes, and that she had the ability to tell them that she had the ability to see that they really were in another universe the video game character that they were LARPing as in Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy.
Are you sure this wasn't in Boulder? It sounds like something you would hear in Boulder.
Actually,
Well,
I think
here's the thing.
it happened in
That
Baltimore.
might have. Oh, yeah. But the thing is, the fact that you mention another game like that, and it's very credible, well, very likely for it to be credible, speaks volumes to the type of lifestyle that this type of, like, cultist activity tends to create. Because it's
Soul
like,
bonded.
it doesn't stop here. Yeah. I thought I would never see those words ever
Yeah,
again.
that's an interesting thing about cults, I think, is that, or like how you know that that an environment is culty, where you walk in and very suddenly the norms are very different from
Mm-hmm.
what you would encounter in the outside world. Like there's certain rituals and certain just certain expectations of what you say, and many of there's new taboos, but there's also other taboos that are lifted. So like her saying that outside, I don't know if she would say that to anybody that wasn't like already part of the group. Like she's not. I would guess she's not advertising that belief outside of that group.
Right, yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, in the beginning, it's like they would do it, and then they get ostracized or whatever.
Right.
They already come they go into this already part of like an outcast type of mentality or
Yeah.
lifestyle. So when they get to this level, they don't advertise this to like the masses.
Yeah.
This is just a more of like a gradual obtaining of like interest in the population over time. And like
Right.
it basically
Yeah.
you're in it for the long haul, or you will leave. And it's the people who tend to leave, they tend to get abused in various ways on the before they make their way out. And
Yeah.
it's the first thing that gets hit is finances. That's the first thing that will get hit, because all of this ain't free. Their lifestyle ain't free, and
Yeah.
their
Right.
mental breakdowns and their failure to adhere to normal people's I guess, well, basically, like for the Final Fantasy people, there were reports of them like struggling to pay rent, doing damage to the home. The list goes on and on. It's like things that
Mm-hmm.
you would expect a normal functioning human being not to do. They
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But the environment that they kind of like that kind of micro environment that they found themselves sucked into made that sort of thing seem permissible, and so that's how they
Yeah,
went down that path. Yeah.
and then this opens the floodgates to, you have situations like, you have the twin flame universe, that documentary, that cult, that the documentary on Netflix and also on
So,
Amazon Prime.
what's the documentary called?
The one on Netflix is called, let me see here, it is called the Escaping the Eternal Flame, or no, Escaping the Twin Flame. So yeah, that's the one on Netflix. There's another one on Amazon, but if you just type in Twin Flame, it'll come up really easily.
Right.
It's a longer name. But all this to say is just like, you have cults like that, and then you have like fictional cults, but kind of based off of like real life cults of like the Jonestown
Yep.
cultists. Like say like Silent Hill, where you have it taken to the degree of what people actually go through with like human sacrificing and experimentation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, it's not that far off.
Someone is continuously providing us more updates about the Final Fantasy house that lady didn't bathe. She was soul bonding. She was taking people's money.
Yeah, it's wild of
All
how
right.
these type of mentalities tend to kind of interact with
Wow.
the general populace.
Right. Yeah. Or not interact.
Oh yeah, or not indirect, because like
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and I mean, I think that's how they become the way they are. It's the isolation.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's isolated, it all of this is just basically different forms of abuse that gets unreported until like you have a mass exodus, or like when enough people die or get hurt or whatever happens. Because apparently with cults, it's like you can't. It's hard to like find a cult incident where there hasn't been at least one body count, because it just goes too far.
I mean, uh, mean, most things I think you would. Well, I mean, what is a cult? Like, is there being some sort of mass death event? Is that when it becomes a cult, or does it become a cult before that happens?
I think before that happens, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. So if that's true, I would think most cults don't result in any kind of murder, uh, but
The
many of
most
them that we know about
notorious
do,
ones.
because those are kind of the most interesting ones anyway.
The most notorious ones tend to wind
The
up
most
in murder.
notorious ones, yeah.
Some guy will come out and be like, "You guys are my family now. You guys are my family. You're gonna do what I say, because that's what family does. They do what Papa says. Okay, okay." $2 if you guys can figure out who I'm trying to impersonate on that one. Woo-wee! Yeah, because you understand.
What about,
Helter Skelter, baby. Helter Skelter. Yeah. Yeah. The answer is Charles Manson.
Oh my!
Furries.
All right.
Are furries a cult?
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not. Okay. We're going there.
You're not going to touch this one?
I am not touching that one.
What? You don't want to pet it? Come on.
Oh god.
It's friendly.
Okay. Here's the thing. I might regret this later. I don't consider furries a cult solely because that is more akin to a lifestyle choice rather than like, because with like cults, there's usually like a select group or a select individual at the top of the cult or the organization that benefits while other people are feeding up to him or her or them. Furries, you don't have that as of 2023, November 16th. To my knowledge.
Furries?
Okay.
Furries don't need that.
Yeah, the worst that you see of furries is that they have conventions. That's the worst.
Right. Yeah. So I think part of my definition of cult is that it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, you can have a cult that really isn't doing much harm, but it kind of behaves like a cult.
Oh, as Morley Gray eloquently put it in the chat, the definition of a cult.
Yes, it is. It is a more so religious style, I would rather say, and devotion towards a figure or a creepy belief system. Like, in my book, right, Scientology is definitely a cult. Then there's some people like, well, what's the difference between religion and a cult? PETA's a cult.
Yes.
Yeah, PETA is a cult because those cats have like this really creepy system of everything is wrong. Everything is wrong if it's hurting an animal some shape or form, and they fail to recognize that they're walking around with cotton. They fail to recognize that, like, you know, animals were like fed a certain type of food to help them laxate, like, past the food that they're eating. Like, they feed them laxatives to, like, animals are fed laxatives so that they can provide fertilizer for the plants, right? And then some people will be like, oh no, but you see, it's natural. No, it's not. Like, they feed them stuff, and then they grow the hemp that is woven into the clothes that you're wearing. Like, animals are mistreated everywhere. Everybody does it.
Right.
Telling me not to put Old Bay seasoning on my crabs is not the way to do it. But, you know, that's just virtue signaling on PETA's part to make them feel better and get donation checks from Carol Baskin.
Or committing crimes that, you know, are clear crimes. You can't just, you know, break into like labs, or well, destroy labs, or break into like facilities that hold animals and then just like set them free in the wild with no repercussions.
If you've seen
murder.
If you've seen 28 Days Later, you know that can go very badly.
Shit. Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that guy was like, don't do it. Please don't do it. I know what you think you're doing. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Yes.
Fucking hippies.
Yeah.
Don't do it. He kept saying, please don't do it. They're infected. They have a virus in there. Please don't do this. Fucking hippies. God, no, I'm sorry. All right. That's another
Yeah,
creepy cult.
it's
Hippie.
it's sort of like I mean, the animal rights movement, I think, is a kind of a mishmash of defensible uh, reason based arguments and stuff that does get into more religiosity. So, like, I was talking with a vegan who was um, very good guy. I liked him a lot. And I asked him, do you eat honey? Because honey is arguably an animal product. It's a part of a bee, and bees
Yes, it
are
is.
technically animals. And but it doesn't kill them. I mean, in fact, if you're arguing ecologically, having a beehive is quite good for the environment. You're supporting pollinator populations, which are in trouble. So that's a good thing. You're probably helping a lot of animals, and you don't have to kill any in the process. And he said, "Well, I don't eat honey because it's not mine to take. Like it belongs to the bees."
I hate that argument
And
so much.
that is, and yeah, I think that's when it sort of becomes it becomes nearly religious and sub and it gets you a result that I don't think that you would like if you took a step back, because like I said, it's overall very good for other creatures. You're probably helping more animals than you think that you're harming in some way. So it's like it gets to a point where you have conflicting causes, right? You want to help the environment, but you also want to help animals. But there's this belief, this little belief that's like getting in the way of you really doing something that I think is in more keeping with your overall project of helping animals.
Yeah, I'll argue it's
If
more
that
about
makes sense.
recruitment than it is about helping the animals. It's more about the numbers game than it is about actually helping or doing anything like that. Making sure that the checks are coming in for donations and that you just do some kind of moral bandstanding and get your money. Like, let's invest money in making a bootleg Pokemon about trafficking animals versus, maybe helping those organizations out there in Africa that are fighting to preserve and help the animals out.
Right. Yeah.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Carol Baskin, and I'm coming out here from the Big Cat Rescue down in Miami. Fuck Joe
Oh my
Exotic because
God.
he has animals in the cage, but I don't pay my workers because they all want to favor my favor, so I don't pay them. And I also have animals in cages, but they're rescues. They're not a basic zoo. And people don't question that I don't pay my workers because they're all volunteers with the Star Trek ranking system. I didn't kill my husband, by the way. That was all a lie.
Very convincing.
But
Didn't they find him?
I don't know. I didn't get to see season 2. Crystal won't let me. I tried
I
to
thought
watch
they
it.
found
now.
him.
I don't know. I heard he might be living in Costa Rica legit somewhere, but every time I try watching this show, like as soon as I come on, she comes sits down and she's like, "Take it off, take it off." I'm like, God, I want to know what happens. I've been trying to watch this sequel for 2 years now.
The second season is never as good.
It's not, but I wanted to get through it. Shoot. But no, like that's where it comes with cults, and this is where I wanted to go back to. So, Bo, what were your thoughts on the documentary that you got to watch about it?
I find it very fascinating on like the the methodologies that because it's the same across the board. So it's like if you see these type of methodologies being used, and this might end up translating to me having trust issues from now on. But it's like if I see like a person like a failing to properly articulate or explain something to a direct question more often than not, or B, it's just like, okay, so you have a person that is giving you questionable advice who's verbally, possibly physically, and mentally and financially assaulting you. Because it's never from like just one angle. There's always multiple angles, and it always adds up. and this documentary got on my eye before we came on. Is this like he has you committing like outlandish crimes that Morley Gray alluded to before, basically like telling people they need to transition in order to like be aligned with the group because you decided to come out with a doctrine just randomly on a day in December saying that okay, these people in our group, which are like largely females because the demographic they target just it hit that niche, unfortunately, vulnerable women. So it's basically oh yeah, so these like 10 pairs, they were all women. Yeah, half of you will now convert to being a male because I said so. Because I had a dream last night with my wife.
And you do
Yeah,
what I
do
say.
it or else.
You convert
Yeah,
yourself to a male. You do what I say. You do
and
what I say. I'm a co-member. I'm co-leader.
and it's and I see this poor woman who is recounting her participation in this mass transition of her fellow members, and just like she was brought to tears because it's like she felt sick doing it, and as she describes, like she knew that the women that she was having these conversations with had no choice because these women gave up a lot of themselves, their livelihood. They're basically at that point autonomy. If a guy is basically telling you to go become a man, just so he can like keep pushing his insane doctrines and ideologies. It was very hard to watch, and it makes me think back to like the person I was talking about earlier was basically trying to more or less trying to get me to send him questionable photos for whatever reason, which makes no sense. And I don't know any one of you can like find the logic in that. There is none, but if you can find it,
They just
let
wanted to
me
see
know.
how you look like, man. They would love to see what you look like in that outfit, and it's just
But where does it
we're all,
stop? Because
we're all
if you
friends.
let up, it's like it's like it's things like that. Just like it helps see like warning signs. Because if you it's like if you give someone an inch, it'll take a mile, and then eventually the continent,
Well, no
and
shit.
ensues.
Why do you think I put the stance that I put in, brother?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good thing you did.
Yep.
Good thing I did too, but I felt like this could have been nipped in the butt sooner by Foresight 2020. But it's like even in like media, when you like, it feels like there's not enough like things covering like cultists as like the protagonist is always like a singular like evil entity
Well, there's
or what
cult
have
movies
you.
about there about the protagonist. There's that one with Joaquin Phoenix a couple years ago. Uh,
Oh,
shit. You
the
know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah, yeah. Hold on. It begins with an M. What is it called?
The Master.
The Master. Yeah,
Yeah, that was one. Then there was one also I remember about Waco. There's one about
yeah.
Waco
That's
I
more
remember.
recent, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was also another one I remember growing up about the story about the girl from Helter Skelter.
Mm-hmm.
Like she hung out with like she actually got to hang out with like Charles Manson and
Oh,
stuff.
oh. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That was a recent one too. Like they kind of it's a
Yeah, yeah,
fictionalized retelling of that
yeah,
story.
yeah.
And
I meant
then
to see that movie.
it's a good
That's a
one, but
great
it's a
movie.
long sit
Yeah.
down. So like get your ass pads out when you watch it, so you don't get tired, and you know get a nice like beer and food ready to go.
Mm.
It's a long one, but it was good. It was a satisfying conclusion with that one. Although you know that didn't. That's not how it happened. It was much darker and much
Yeah.
sadder, and we're still feeling the effects about that in Hollywood to this day.
But
But
that is to say, like those, like the ones that you mentioned, except for like the last one, because that was, it's made by a very popular or infamous director or a film creator. Like those are not as popular as like like typical like monster or horror films.
or the Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, that one I heard of.
Yeah, it's her escaping
Yeah.
from the cult.
Yeah.
Like yeah, that dude is
Yeah.
essentially running like a weird sex cult, right? Where he's trying to impregnate all the women and pass his seed down. Uh,
Mm.
There was another one too that I remember seeing as a kid. Oh, this one is about the followers and the children. John may have seen this one. Children of the Corn.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one.
Yep.
Outlander,
Okay.
we give our tribute
Alright.
to the corn.
Oh my goodness. And
We
you're
have
saying,
your
oh yeah, you don't
woman,
hear about popular
Outlander.
ones. Oh man.
But I
Alright,
forgot
so
like
you're-
there's more out there. I'm just trying to remember them. So they're not
But
a very easy swallow. If that makes any sense. Like a lot of people
yeah,
watch them.
which
They're very like tough to watch and sit through.
Some cult movies.
Yeah, like real quick.
Yeah.
Movies about the cultists being
Um,
manipulated.
Oh, okay. Yeah. In The Wicker Man, the old one. I haven't even bothered with the Nicolas Cage one.
Oh really? You haven't seen the bees? Not the bees.
I know about the scene. I know about the scene, but
He punches
the-
a chick in a bear outfit.
maybe I'll watch it just for
You're getting enough of that
just
golden
for the
grid.
comic experience. But the old one is a great film. That's one of my favorite movies. And it's about, I guess you would call it a cult, a cult that's isolated by region. They're on a small Scottish island called Summer Isle, and there's a police officer that goes to investigate a missing persons case, and turns out that he was there not by accident. That is all I will say. But in that movie, Christopher Lee plays the cult leader.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Dog.
With that deep, commanding voice, like who wouldn't follow Christopher Lee?
I'll be honest with you, yeah, Christopher Lee's like, you will be a Scientologist and you will rise
Right.
above all things you have ever seen. Yes, Master.
I believe every word of that.
I believe that.
Now I'm a Scientologist.
Because you said
a lot.
it. Because Christopher Lee said it. Now I'm going
It was just your impression of Christopher Lee has changed the course of my life for the better.
You want to know something messed up about Christopher Lee? A lot of people don't really know this. He is the basis. So I'll actually put it this. His nephew, to my understanding, is Ian Fleming. When he was a kid, he would go tell Ian Fleming his exploits from when he used to be in the army in World War II fighting for Queen and Country.
Yep.
Right? So then a couple of years later, Ian Fleming grew up and wrote a novel and a series of novels about a character that was inspired by the exploits of his uncle. The name is Bond. James Bond.
Oh my god.
Is actually Sir
That's
Christopher
incredible.
Lee. However, Christopher Lee is kind of like, when you bullshit to your nephew, right? Like, you just make up a bunch of stories and shit, and it's cool. And then the nephew comes back and goes, oh, Uncle did all these things. He's a big fish, right? And you're like, oh, and now Christopher Lee's like, oh, now I'm actually a famous actor and shit. My nephew's out there spreading. Yeah, I did all that. I was indeed a super spy for her country. Yeah.
There is that's incredible. Wow. Christopher Lee is James Bond.
He's the basis. It's supposedly like it's inspired by James Bond is inspired by the exploits of the author's uncle and his time in the U.S. in the Royal Marine or the Royal something like that. Even though he did serve, he didn't do much, but it's like
Was he in MI6?
No, he was just in like the Air Force or something like that.
Okay.
But, like,
I thought he was in some sort of special forces unit, like within the army.
It was debunked a couple years ago, but after a while, I'm like, oh, I know what happened here. He went and told his nephew a bunch of great big stories. His nephew believed them. His nephew created a character based on them. When his nephew created a character based on them, it ballooned out of control. It's $1 billion franchise based off of this dude's lies. What's he gonna do? No, none of that really ever happened. All of that was a lie. You see, I did it to Then what's gonna happen is MGM, Sony, and all the other companies that own the Bond movies were gonna go to his house, even though he was 90-something years old, and push his shit in. So he just turned around and, yes, I was in fact a great British hero for king and country against the Nazis. Yes. Remember, I was Saruman. Would you rather talk about me being Dracula and Saruman as opposed to me being the basis for James Bond? I believe that's more entertaining.
Maybe. All right.
But
Should we close
since
out?
since we're on now James Bond and we're at our original
Okay,
subject.
yeah. Oh, this is a good segue. Yeah.
So, I have a question because James Bond is about to be remade. Halloween was just bought out by Miramax to also presumably get remade.
More to come. Mhm.
Yep, Friday the 13th, they finally settled their beef over there, and we're going to get a mini series by Chuck, I think, the guy who did American Horror Story and Dahmer, called Crystal Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are your opinions on remakes? Or just as a general one?
I kind of don't like the idea of remakes, but often the results are good.
Right, what's a good result?
Uh, I'll start way back. You ready?
Go for it.
The Addams Family movies from the '90s.
Oh, I thought you were going to go further back than that, but yeah, that's a good remake.
I could go further back, yeah. Well, I think. Well, I mean, I mentioned those, but those ones are. I think they really captured the spirit of the sitcom, but they just reinvented it. And yeah, thought it was really successful. But again, like the idea of them, it seems like it's risky to me. Like you're playing with something that's already very popular and already kind of established as to what it is in the culture. And you just sort of, I don't know, it's a risky project.
It is a very risky project when you kind of do stuff like this. Everybody's going in with like very high expectations, and you're not gonna satisfy anyone when you do that kind of thing. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah. There's some people that just aren't going to be happy.
yeah, like I've seen some good remakes. There's a debate on Horror Talk about a good remake. The 2005 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of
I never
people.
saw it, but I've heard it's good.
There's only one reason you should watch that movie. Jessica Biel. That's all.
Okay.
Just go watch it for Jessica Biel. Like,
Yeah.
just go
So
for Jessica Biel.
are we talking specifically about remakes or are we including reboots?
Well, we can go because sometimes
my
like they're running in tandem nowadays. Remakes and reboots. Like it's essentially.
Yeah.
My thing is a remake is a reboot, isn't it? Because if it does well, they're just gonna continue with the remake universe.
It's
Because that happened with
not.
Texas Chainsaw. Like Texas Chainsaw 05 did really well at the box office, so then they did Texas Chainsaw The Beginning, a prequel to
Okay.
the '05 one, and then they were trying to do a third one, which was going to pick up like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 thing, but it didn't do very well. So then they kind of did another remake, and now we're there on that thing, but it's like that was a
Mhm.
thing. And similar with like Halloween, right? Rob Zombie remade it, and then he got a sequel, and then they were planning on just going forward with the remake universe with the third one, but it didn't go.
Honestly, I wasn't
Okay.
feeling Rob Zombie's re remake
I told you,
of Halloween.
it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Well,
It,
I mean, I think the difference between a remake and a reboot is a remake is you take the same story of something and you just do a different version of it. But a reboot is maybe you pick up where something left off, or you you take the same characters but make a new story. It's like a remake is a retelling of the same story, but a reboot is just using the original as a loose source material,
okay,
and
so
with the intention of making a franchise. I think that's key to what a reboot is.
Pretty much.
all right. Well,
Yeah.
Halloween is weird because the 2007 Halloween, from what you described, felt more like by that definition, was more of a reboot than a remake because it added in a bunch of stuff that the original didn't have, like Michael's I guess like it was weird. Like when I was watching it, it's like why is he trying to cop a feel of his sister? Like wait, why is this here? Wait, Rob
Yeah.
Zombie, explain this to me. Why is this here? And apparently, it's like the overtone was like, oh, like instead of having him be like this entity of evil who randomly just kills people and animals, which I still never understood from the original, he now is downgraded to being a sociopathic serial killer who is a sexual deviant, which that scene with his sister was the only indication of him being a sexual deviant, and that was just it felt like it was 3 seconds of an out of place scene because everyone else in the film in the director's cut were more of sexual deviants than anything.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. If you're gonna
Mhm.
watch that one, skip
Yeah.
the director's cut.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
added a.
Well, I mean, the problem that John Carpenter had with the Rob Zombie remake was that Rob Zombie filled in too many gaps as to how as to why Michael Myers is what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Carpenter left a lot more up to the imagination. I mean, in the original, he's just this force of evil, this
There's no rhyme.
inexplicable
There's no reason
Mm-hmm.
force of
behind it.
evil.
It's just
Yeah,
evil. There's nothing. There's darkness in those eyes. He's killed again.
Yeah, it's.
yeah.
Uh,
Carpenter's words that he's almost supernatural, not quite, but he's almost supernatural.
oh, he's
But
definitely
and I haven't
supernatural.
seen the Rob Zombie. I haven't seen the Rob Zombie film, but what I've gleaned from Carpenter's interview is that none of it is really left up to the imagination. That Rob Zombie like tries to explain all of Myers's peculiarities, and that kind of missed the point of the original, at least for John Carpenter.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the same vein with him because, like, if it was trying to explain all of his peculiar tendencies, for lack of a better term, it did a terrible job because it's like you have like the deadbeat boyfriend who I kind of was interested how he ended up being practically crippled. He had a broken arm. He couldn't use two fingers on his right hand for some weird reason. He was a drunk.
Bitch, if you don't
And
think I'm making a mental list of all your bullshit.
Oh my goodness. I'm just like, I could not take him seriously when he's going around just being a worthless piece of shit. And it's just like, and he gets killed by a 10, a 10-year-old
He
kid.
was killed by a 10-year-old
Very
kid who
easy.
caught him after he'd been on a bender drinking all night. He didn't see it coming.
I felt like you didn't even need to wait for him to be on a bender. He just did the smart thing. He's like, okay,
He taped him up too while he had been drinking.
this
And
is
that guy
way
got
for-
screwed.
yeah. How? Oh my! And the thing is, he's like I couldn't feel bad. Like that's like one of the few kills in the beginning. Like in the beginning, I should not be feeling like sorry for the killer and rooting for his victim in the first 15 to 20 minutes of the film. Like the only innocent person that died, was like that nurse Deborah. That was the only person up until that point that I like. Okay, I can't support this. I feel nothing towards the sister's boyfriend. I feel nothing towards that. Like he got away in the original, like which is great because he like, and in this one I kind of felt bad because he actually apologized for making him miss out on Halloween with his sister. We his sister didn't want to go in the first place, so she ended up dying, and it is what it is. But I still felt nothing when he died in this one. But that all is to say, it's a not a good look when you're trying to humanize evil. It didn't translate in this film for me.
Isn't all
Yeah, that could be a risky thing.
human.
Yeah,
All evil is
trying to
human.
humanize it.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
It's just all evil is human. It's humanized because only humans are capable of evil. Isn't that how fucking Malcolm McDowell sounds like in that? It's like the idea that in reality it's more next door than you would think. right? I mean, in my book, though, if you were to tell me, Carlos, what would you change about the Rob Zombie movie? I wouldn't have made them white trash.
Oh yeah,
I think I would
that
have
was
gone
another
with them just
thing.
being a regular family. You know, like being the white trash angle kind of like really does give hillbillies like a bad look. You know,
Yeah.
it's that you're kind of saying the idea that this dude's coming out of like that kind of broken poor people house and shit. And it's like no, this could happen anywhere. Like Ted Bundy wasn't exactly a hillbilly broke ass dude, and
Oh my goodness.
this kid was he just
Right.
snapped. Like I think in my when I watched that one, there is a humanization to him, but it's also the same thing that he could be supernatural. Whatever his home life was broken, like it had him a long time before we see him for the first time. By the time we see Michael Myers as a kid in that movie, he's already screwed up. He's already killing
Yeah.
animals. And
Which, yeah,
I'm pretty sure someone here might be able to give a better thing than I can, but like in class, I remember learning that serial killing is a sexual crime. It's not a crime of wrath or anger. It's a very
Mm.
sexually driven thing, and it starts with killing animals because that's how you get your kick.
wait, what?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hold on.
So the
From what I can remember reading in terms of if you have like a I mean, yes, killing animals is a sign of being a serial killer.
but it's
I
also
never
an
seen it.
act of dominance because the animal is smaller than you. Not you, but you know, like it's smaller than
Right, right.
them, and like
But
the act of having some kind of control over something that's weaker gives some of these guys like that kind of thing. And
yeah,
maybe in my book, if you want to say something, they were a grungy family that liked to, play a lot of that rock, and people back in that time frame were very big on. We salute you, Satan, with our rock and roll and shit, just to do it. Who knows what his family
yeah,
was up to? You never knew who his dad was. What if his dad was Jimmy
yeah.
Page?
He just went to heaven apparently, according to the sister.
Oh yeah, he took the
Um,
stairway to heaven.
but
Yeah, see, it's
like
about
that,
power.
yeah. But like for that, from jumping from that to it just automatically being like a sexual thing, that's where you lost me because it's
It
like
is.
he never showed any proclivity for any
That
sexual
that is
deviancy
the
aside from the
act.
3 seconds of his sister.
That is the action, though. It's the idea of I
Um,
have control. This is also going to creep you out based on our previous conversation. I have control.
uh,
And then they go around hurting things because I have control. And that gives the the thrill, the satisfaction. Somebody just put in the chat. It's more about power, which translates to a sexual aspect, like the drive is to have power over people or animals. So when someone is a serial killing is not just a like we get into scary movies, right? Like this is a very horrific thing. It's a very meticulously done thing. There is a method and a ritual to it. But at the end of the
Mm.
day, it is also a compulsive thing that these guys, the guys who get away with it a lot, they've created a system so that they can get away with it, but they get an itch and they do it. And sometimes they go around kill. I hate to say it so plainly, but they kill 3, 4 people, and then their kick is satisfied, right? They don't worry about it anymore. You don't hear about it again. But then you get some people that's not enough, and then they start going to town on more people, and they're a little more unhinged than the other. But it's because they have a thrill of power and dominance over a life, over a soul. You know,
Mhm.
like in
yeah.
Zodiac's letter, it's like I am creating a
Yeah.
soul of slave of army of souls, right? But yes,
It
remakes of
makes me.
Halloween was a that one divides a lot of people. Like I'm in the
Yeah.
camp where I was okay with it, but I've also seen it enough times to kind of like, oh, okay, I can kind of see what they were going for here.
Mhm.
Uh,
There are
both
parts of it I did like though. Like it did give me a genuine like jump scare when he gets that kill off on Mr. Strode. That actually got me because it was that was the fastest
The
like kill
Strodes.
blitz I've ever experienced. Because like that, like the original had like moments where it's like, okay, it like, oh, I'm trying to think. It was I'm trying to think, but I had to see it in my head. But like, there was a moment that like I think that was like it had I think like two moments, but those two moments together um basically fail into that one like blitz kill he gets on Mr. Schroed. And that, oh man, but like I like that, like the music and a lot of like the menacing aspects in this film, and like you actually felt that. Not to say it wasn't there in the original, but they kind of upped the ante. And that aspect for the most part. There were some parts where it's like, yeah, this is you're just dragging this now, and that's like I think lasts like 5, 10 minutes of the film, maybe 15. Is yeah, it didn't need to go on that long.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he, I mean, he has a higher body count, but I'm surprised he let that one girl, the sheriff's daughter, live in this one.
I think he got stopped before he could finish the job.
Like, oh, for me, I thought he was using her as bait
He
to
was.
lure.
He was dead by
Yeah,
daylighting her. He was
yeah, yeah.
stopped. He
Honestly,
was
yeah.
stopped before he could finish the job.
That caught me by surprise. I'm like, oh, he okay, all right, we're here now. And you know, Anna gets a good ending in this remake or reboot or whatever have you. But yeah, Lori in this one gets she's not a badass in this one, which is it is what it is.
We don't besmirch Scott Taylor Compton in this house. Scott
Oh,
Taylor Compton calls a boo. All right, all right.
that's it.
We just need to say that one. I need to say that one right now. She's
All
not
right.
she's not like some psycho we know with Jennifer Aniston, but we don't besmirch Scott Taylor Compton in this house. All right.
Okay. Okay. Confirm this for me. Do you prefer her over Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yes,
Is Laurie really?
because Jamie Lee Curtis is a bitch.
Like,
Jamie Lee Curtis hates horror movies, thus I will side with Scott Taylor Compton.
He said it publicly.
oh my goodness.
Now, she's coming after you now.
Good, let her come. Shit. It's like, you know
I
what?
mean, she knows all. I mean,
You know what?
she went head up with Michael Myers. She knows all the moves, man.
You know what? Let her come. Let her. The roles are reversed. All right. I'm waiting for that bitch, locked and loaded. Let's see what happens. I'm waiting for her to listen to us on our small time show. People hashtag this. Anybody listening to this? The Ghastly Hallows has publicly announced that they hate. I'm putting all you guys in it too. I'm not going to let this one off.
She's gonna give you a poisoned pack of Activia. That's what she's gonna do.
Go ahead, let her. I welcome that. Oh yeah, that's gonna really hurt my day. I'm gonna shit myself on the bathroom all morning. Yeah. Ooh. I'm really scared of Jamie Lee Curtis and her creepy dad Tony Curtis. Ooh. What's she gonna do? Jump in from that other universe movie of hers and come get me? Ooh. Jamie Lee Curtis.
We're still in the 2020 decade. Anything is possible.
Okay.
Yeah. Moving on from Halloween and that bitch Jamie Lee Curtis, but bitch. I say she's a bitch.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's the sound bite. That's the sound bite for this episode. That's the
bitch.
Always at least one. Always at least one.
But Red, do you have any other ones under your belt? I believe Halloween came from Bolt on that one. What's one that you hated?
Okay, a remake that I hate? Oh,
yeah. You're like, this didn't need to be a thing.
He's going to his extensive list of bad remakes.
I've kept better track of the ones that I liked.
Good for you, man. You're
Yeah,
not full of
yeah,
negativity like me. I have at least one that I know I hated that I never saw again. That was very upset. I was looking forward to it.
Okay. I don't hate it, but it's underwhelming. The new Twilight Zone series.
You know,
that's a reboot. That's not it's not a remake, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's just missing something.
It's
It
missing
seems
Rod Serling.
like it's well that is a huge thing that is missing. It does have Jordan Peele though doing the Rod Serling thing where he introduces the episode. That's cool,
He is cool, and I
but
like
it
Jordan Peele, but
seems
he's not
like
Rod Serling.
he's not Rod Serling. Uh, it just feels like kind of a B grade Black Mirror, because
Mm-hmm.
Black Mirror is the modern Twilight Zone, and it's just so much better.
Yeah, and that's the
Than,
thing too. Like,
yeah,
somebody came and figured the formula right, and they did it,
yeah.
and they did it already, which is like, I'm actually gonna circle back to this one because this is like my ultimate thought of like my stance on remakes these days. Like that, you just kind of like you fast forwarded me by like a few seconds on the subject, but can you believe that like somebody came out and cracked the code out here how to do the proper anthology series, right? Like this in our day and
Mhm.
age that we haven't seen since the Twilight Zone. Somebody came in and they saw how it's done and they did it and they did it right.
Yeah,
Whereas we got a lot of people out here still trying to do these kinds of things and they're not doing it. They're not doing it like the best way that they could do, you know? Like some stuff
yeah.
can be done, but I'm actually gonna put a pin in that and go remake that I hated was, and we're gonna revisit John Carpenter because a lot of his stuff is apparently remakeable these days. Uh,
Okay.
The Fog, '05.
Oh, okay.
So Jamie Lee Curtis is a bitch, and I hate her. But she was in her and one of my favorite dudes to go back and watch his '80s movies, Tom Atkins. Her and Tom Atkins were in the original The Fog movie, and the original movie is amazing. It holds up
Mm,
really
yeah,
well. If you can get your hands
I've
on
seen it.
that
Yeah.
one, I that effect with the cross, right? Where like he's fighting off the like
Hmm.
the guy's like holding on to the cross, like that effect is so awesome. It's lighting up. The makeup on those on the skeleton pirates, right? And the ghost pirates, like you never really fully see them, but you see them a bit. But they're like behind that foggy like that display in the '80s. Beautiful movie. I love that movie. It feels like one of those horror comics, those EC comics come to life. I cannot say enough good things about the original Fog. Love it. Love John Carpenter in that. Love John Carpenter's movie on that one. Awesome movie. And then we fast forward to 2005 with the Fog, and it was supposed to be Superman's coming out party. Tom Welling, like he finally got himself a Hollywood feature film. Everybody was excited, and at some point they decided that they were going to focus more on the pirates, and it was edited poorly, and it sucked. And I never watched it again after the first one. Like I watched it with my brother, like we rented it, we watched it in the morning, and then I remember we hated it. We didn't pay any attention to it. It was like just boring after a few minutes. I remember taking the DVD out, putting it in the case, and then going back to the store. We had the 30-day pass and renting the original one to wash my palate of that terrible one, of the terrible remake. Like that was that's like the time where I'm like, this is the first remake I've watched that I really despise. Like this was just not necessary. When people tell me I hate Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm like, nah. At least they were trying. This movie was not trying. I don't know what the hell they were doing with this one, but this one sucked.
Hmm.
But yeah, Bolt. Any remakes you hate?
Ooh. Trying to think. I know there was some recent memory, but like it's been so long ago, I think I forgot about them. I'll just look in the chat and point out one that I was talking with this person, just a viewer, mentioned the other day. Ghostbusters.
That was a reboot.
Yeah.
I saw that as a
Yeah.
reboot. They were trying to tell a
Yeah, that's
different
reboot.
story with that
It's,
one, and I think they should have stuck to a different story. Um, Full disclosure, I didn't see it. Um,
Same.
I saw the trailers and I was not thrilled by it. Like it didn't look funny, so I kind of skipped. Like it looked really like wild. It looked really wild and colorful and interesting, but then like when I saw the jokes coming through, I just kind of skipped them. Like, all right, I'm not feeling this one. Oh, they remade Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh yeah, I remember about that.
Yeah,
That
they
was
did.
great.
They did bring that back.
They kicked
That
the
was
hornet's nest. There goes the neighborhood.
Right? That's dangerous.
That show was awesome.
That's classic Nickelodeon. You don't
Yeah.
mess with that. Oh,
That's a reboot though.
when we're going there, the Rugrats reboot. I don't even need to watch it to know that I hate it.
It's CGI.
Yes, it looks horrible.
CGI. Why would
when
you do that to the Rugrats?
When you do characters that were designed to be 2D, hand drawn, and you'd make them CGI, it always looks horrible.
Yes. Every time.
Yeah.
I have never seen a time where they looked good drawn in like 3D.
No, it always looks bad.
They look terrible every time.
You weren't feeling all grown up.
I felt All Grown Up more than that.
A little bit of all.
It wasn't great. I didn't like All Grown Up. Like it was kind of like there was an episode where one of them had a drug problem, or like
Wait, what?
Yeah, there was an episode one of the Rugrats had a drug problem.
Wait, there's no way.
I
Pretty
remember
sure
hearing about that. I never watched All Grown Up. Somebody who I believe was a credible person walked up to me one day. We're talking about old nostalgic shows, and they're like, "There's an episode where I think it was Kimmy or Chucky had some kind of problem with taking pills. They stole the plot from Saved by the Bell."
Wow,
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
I'm just imagining the introduction. Drum, Papa Chucky goes to jail.
Oh man, Chucky.
I used to like Chucky when I was a kid too. He was my dude.
Oh, Chucky's awesome.
By the way, sorry.
I've been watching the old Rugrats on Netflix lately.
Crystal was binging that too for a little bit.
Yeah.
You want to know something funny about Tommy Pickles? Give you guys a bit of nerd credit here on the Ghastly Hallows.
Yeah.
He's modeled after a very famous sci-fi character.
Really?
Yes. The clues are all there. You just gotta take a very, very good look at Tommy Pickles, and you can see what character he's modeled after if you know your sci-fi. I'll give you a hint. It's British.
British.
Okay.
Because when you said that, until that point, I was thinking it was Xenomorph for some weird reason. I don't know why. Don't ask me. Doctor Who.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yep. He's modeled after Doctor Who.
Interesting.
He has the screwdriver that can open anything.
Yeah. Like the Tom Baker version.
Yeah. Yes,
I've never noticed.
Yeah, because they always go on wild, different adventures to different worlds in their imagination every day.
Oh, what? No freaking way!
Wow. Okay, yeah. It's told from the perspective of their imagination, but it cuts to the real world where they're tearing up a supermarket.
Yeah, no, but the idea is though, they are in another world, and Tommy Pickles is kind of leading his buddies through a weird adventure where nobody gets hurt, nobody gets killed. They're just kind of running away.
Oh, people do get hurt.
Yeah, but then nobody dies. You know.
That might explain why the show lost its way.
Probably
because it became too much about just the present world, where they kept adding characters and new siblings.
Yeah, it stopped being about the adventure, the baby adventures, and then when they grew up, one of them was on drugs, and it stopped being interesting.
It was Phil, wasn't it?
I don't know which one of them was on drugs. I just remember hearing one of them was on drugs.
I mean, I'll bet money that it was Chucky.
I'll bet money that it was Kimmy. I'm so excited.
No, it can't be Kimmy.
But
I vaguely remember.
Well, why? Because it had to be Chucky and not Kimmy. They both live in the same house. They're step siblings.
No, I'm pretty sure you remember the that Wikipedia thread on their I guess grim outcomes, and each one had a grim adult, not adult, but teenage future for them.
You know
And
what?
I vaguely remember Phil being the one that was like your something to do with drugs. I have to go look it up again. I wonder if it's still up.
Who the hell put that up? That's sick.
If I could find the link, I will post it in the chat.
You know what?
Uh,
You know who was most likely on drugs? This is
Who's
gonna
that?
take you back to the early 2000s. For those of you that don't know your
Okay.
creepypastas, Angelica was most likely doing the drugs. Y'all
oh my!
ever heard of Rugrats theory?
But yeah, I
Yes,
think that's what I was
that
talking
they're
about.
all dead, and
They
Angelica, and
they
they're all
they don't
products of
exist.
Angelica's
Yeah,
imagination.
they're all a
Yeah.
product of this of they're all a product of the Angelica's imagination.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness!
Yeah. Well, I mean, couldn't you? I mean, what's the evidence that they argued? Like, couldn't you argue that for any character in any series or movie ever?
All right, that's a subject for a different episode because I actually did
Okay.
have a really
Okay.
good one for The Simpsons, but I'm gonna keep that for ourselves for now. It did really well on
Okay.
Tumblr when I posted it back in the day, but it actually broke it down and showed the clip as to when I think it happened. But we'll go back from there. We'll go back to a different day. The other remake that I didn't think was necessary, which when I saw it, I'm like, why do we do this? Uh, I started watching a little bit of Magnum PI, not Magnum,
Hmm.
Hawaii 5-0. I saw a bit
Yep.
of that, and I'm like, uh, I'm not feeling this. I usually watch these crime drama shows with my fiance, but this one was just one. I'm like, I cannot get into this. The theme song did not age very well on live TV. You know, some theme songs, right, like they age well. You can reuse them, just add a little bit of a shift to them, right, and they work again. Yeah, it's like you spit off a bit of polish. But that one was not very good. Like that was just not worth my time. Hawaii 5-0. Skip. You have to skip one. Skip that one. Jack Palance, I miss you. But no. So while we're here, I'll actually touch on what we were talking about with Red, where it happened, right? Twilight Zone is back. We all wanted Twilight Zone to come back, and then we finally get it back, and now we're in this situation where there's already a good successor that has been around for a while, and people got
Hmm.
into it a little easier with Black Mirror. My belief with remakes is the following: it's a blanket statement, but I think it's where we lost our way. I think that we rely on remakes way too much. We keep going back to the past, and when we see something cool, we don't just appreciate something cool. The first thing everybody says is remake it, right? When Stranger Things came out last year, everybody saw Vecna for the first time, right? And the very first thing that everybody said was, this guy should be Freddy Krueger. And it's like, you guys missed the point. We don't need this guy to be Freddy Krueger. He's already Vecna. Like, Vecna is
Right.
inspired by Freddy Krueger. The Duffer Bros saw, he even got the nod by Robert Englund on the show. Like Robert Englund was like on the show with him. We don't need remakes. We need people to go back and watch something and then get inspired to do something with it. You know, uh,
Right.
like that's
Yeah.
what we need. Like we don't need her. Like I actually do like these Hercule Poirot movies that Kenneth Branagh is doing, but
Hmm.
instead of getting more Hercule Poirot movies out there, which they're fun, and I'll watch the next one. I liked Haunting in Venice, great film. Can we maybe get more shows like The Mentalist, who this dude is an obvious inspiration of Hercule Poirot? Can we
Yeah.
get more of these other shows like What We Do in the Shadows, where they're like a riff on The Office and vampires? Can we get more stuff that's original? Like I feel that
Mm.
as a culture right now, creatively, we are stuck in this rut where it's like we need to remake this. We need to get something that has brand recognition to make it worth our time. And like the reality is, no, we don't. What we need is to get something that's good, that stands on its own 2 feet. We don't need to redo it. And if anything, if we're gonna revisit something, let's go revisit the stuff that had cliffhangers and seal those gaps and end those stories, right? Like Ash versus the Evil Dead. I enjoyed that. That was, we finished the story of Ash Williams, right? People are like, okay, so now Evil Dead Rise is a remake. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell came out. Not, it's just a story set in the same universe. It's there are other books of the dead out there, so they call it Volume 2. There are, it's not. But, you know, we get into this thing where it's like, well, we want it to be a remake so we can continue along, or we want it to be a reboot so we can change things, and it's like, we don't need to change anything. Instead of saying, let's remake Scooby-Doo for the millionth time, and, you know, this time we're going to do what they did with Velma, which got a lot of hate views. Instead of doing that, why didn't they just do a show like Mike Tyson's Murder Mysteries, where like that show went on for a while on Adult Swim, where it's like it's Scooby-Doo but
That
with
was
Mike
funny.
Tyson, right? Like
I really enjoyed that.
yeah, that was hilarious. And to me, what that says is we got people out there with ideas, and there are people out there that want to see new ideas, but I don't understand why we just keep reaching back into the well. You know, like
Yeah. So it's like don't redo the X-Files, but do something like the X-Files.
yeah,
Yeah. I like that.
right. Like there's some
Yeah.
pretty cool things you could do, like especially in this day and age, right? With the X, like all right, we don't need Agents Mulder and Scully again, but if anything, why can't we have? There was actually a show that was sort of like the X-Files, which I heard was inspired by the X-Files. Which I saw the first few episodes, and I'm actually gonna one day if I find it out there, I'm gonna rewatch it. Grimm. Do you ever hear Grimm?
Grim, okay.
It's
No.
basically about a cop who's contending against like characters from Fables that are like attacking him because he has the bloodline of the brothers Grimm in him.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it was a very interesting show. Like I didn't finish it. I went through some problems. But that was a great show. Another show I'll point out, which is technically an adaptation of Hamlet. Someone is gonna give a nod and I expect them to fucking cheer when I say this. They probably already know where I'm going. Sons of Anarchy is a retelling of Hamlet.
Hamlet has been the real source for like
It
maybe
is.
a fourth or half of the
It
media we
is,
consume.
but I go back to it though. Like that is a retelling of Hamlet that hadn't been done that way before, and it was very fascinating to see. It's like magical realism worked really hard into that show. There's a lot of things in that show that look almost fantastical when you watch it, that you think like, is there like a supernatural being or something afoot of all this? Is there a ghost that we just can't see? And there is. John Teller is a ghost watching his son. And it's like, nobody talks about that show anymore. After it ended, it's like, people are like, okay, we still want to talk about Breaking Bad's nuts, but we don't want to talk about Sons of Anarchy.
I think it's because of the Nazi ideology that was permeating throughout.
There was no Nazi ideology in Sons of Anarchy. They fought against Nazis throughout a good chunk of that show.
You sure?
Yeah, I watched that bitch twice. And I know somebody in the chat who watched that shit more than that. She harassed Kurt Sutter.
I heard about nothing but Sons of Anarchy for so many years.
Yep, we know who it was.
Seven years.
7 years. Sons of Anarchy. We saw that pollute a whole bunch of people.
But didn't they have a member in the gang that was like always on thin ice of getting kicked out because of his background?
And then when they found out that was being used, they turned around and said, we have to redo the bylaws then. They didn't care. He had already earned his
I
patches.
can neither defend the show nor condemn the show because I haven't seen it.
Oh, you know what? Like that's one I'll recommend. Like That one has a lot of like really interesting themes that they play with on camera and they play with in the writing. It's a really interesting show, and like instead of seeing somebody do Hamlet for the millionth time, to be or not to be, whether the mind is not, whatever the fuck, I'm more interested in seeing this guy recite the definition of anarchy that he gets off of, like, instead of seeing a ghost visit somebody again, I'm more interested in him finding his dead father's journal. Like, it's a much cleaner, neater way of doing it, as opposed to, everything the light touches is all kingdom.
Right. Or you had something similar to that in the show, but like, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Or like,
also,
I'll tell you another one. Hey, Chala, don't forget who you are, man. Yeah, avenge your father who was killed by your cousin. That's Hamlet too. Black Panther was Hamlet, but it was like blatantly Hamlet. Like, come on, I'm actually a bigger fan of the other one. It's more down to earth. It's more realistic. There's characters that you fall for and characters that you absolutely start to hate. And it's like, the character of Jax Teller is a flawed character, but you get to hang out with him, you get to love him, you get to humanize him. He's cool. He's not this Adonis there's not this paragon of perfection. Like, Wakandans never do anything fucked up. I don't know if you noticed that. All those movies, they're Boy Scouts. They're Boy Scouts. When he finds out he does something fucked up, they do their best to talk about how he's rehabilitating the situation, making up for it. No point do they do anything really fucked up. But I'm not about to start yelling at Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman isn't allowed to defend himself anymore.
I'll leave that. But I find it funny with
even if
Sons of
he
Anarchy.
was, he wouldn't chime in.
Care.
But...
Unless we get somebody who brings this to his attention. With my luck, that would happen. Somebody would find a way to bring this to his attention, and then like I would be on their shit list even more than I already am over there.
So you worry about Chadwick Boseman, but you're not worried about Jamie Lee Curtis.
I'm not worried. Like I said, Jamie Lee Curtis can bring it. All right.
Well, one's alive.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm not worried about Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis can bring it.
Fair enough. That is courageous. You go after the person that's here. So.
Yeah, damn straight. Oh no, I'm gonna come out and be like, yeah, before they died, they were really mean to me. Nah, Chadwick Boseman, he was a cool dude. I didn't like the character he played in one of those movies. But I am going to say this. Jamie Lee Curtis is a bitch. And if this comes out, I want anybody listening to this to track down her Twitter /X/ whatever the fuck they call that thing these days and tweet this article so we can go viral. I want to be viral and calling Jamie Lee Curtis a bitch. She's a bitch and a bitch and a bitch. I'm going to be like Chris Rock. She's a bitch. Her dad's a bitch. Her mom's a bitch. He's a bitch and a bitch and a bitch. And that's what. Hates horror movies, wins an Oscar, goes, support genre movies because I'm a bitch. Bitch.
Oh, man.
What? It's true. She's a bitch. Arlie said it first. I'm just agreeing with Arlie. She's a bitch.
Alright, I think that would be a good place to end this lovely podcast.
Closing statements.
Right. I made my closing statement.
Jack. We'll skip
Jamie Lee Curtis is a bitch. Create more original content. She's a bitch. Alright, guys. Your thoughts on what I was just ranting about.
Original
Watch
content.
out for cults.
Yeah, honestly, yes. Watch out for cults because they will come. Man. Yes, especially a serial killer that's leading a cult. We haven't seen that yet, and I am waiting for that to come to light.
Wait,
and I'm afraid.
I guess.
Yes.
My closing statement would be: avoid serial killers, especially if they're offering you financial independence.
Or candy.
Like candy.
We have seen that. It was Charles Manson. Charles Manson was a serial killer who led a cult of hippies in California in the 70s.
I mean, another one. Name another one.
You know what? If you gave me like coffee and a few hours, I'll probably track a few down. There's a couple out there.
Oh my goodness, that's just concerning. I'm losing all faith in survivability. for the human race.
Look,
The fact that these people keep coming to power is really boggles my mind.
they do keep coming into power, and then they keep
Yeah,
remaking good movies and ruining them. You know,
and then we make documentaries and TV shows and movies on them, and fantasize. Oh, it's.
it,
I
It's
just want to name my
a,
beef.
it's a loop. Yeah.
it's a loop. We've kind of found the fucking self-eating monster, right? And I'm over here
Yeah.
going, all I want is some original content. Would everybody please let the Joker go? Okay? I don't need to see the Joker as a villain again in a movie. I don't need to see Superman beat up Lex Luthor anymore. I don't need to see another Spider-Man in another movie again. I don't need to see, I really don't need to see another Jason Voorhees movie where he hacks up a bunch of campers, and I like those movies. I don't need to see Michael Myers terrorize 1423 Lambkin Lane again. I don't need to see another $50 million budget zombie movie where people are just running from zombies. And most of all, the last thing that I really don't need to see any more of is that bitch Jamie Lee Curtis star in any more films and win Oscars for her nepotism. That's the last thing I need to see. The only thing that would make that whole night entertaining is if Will Smith would have gotten up and slapped somebody that was presenting the award again because he was already on a drunken rage streak that night.
Will Smith is now the Academy's resident slapper.
Not anymore. He got barred. Remember?
Didn't he get unbarred?
Did he? I mean, I heard something else about him, but we're not going to talk about that right now. We're just going to end this on a.
If there's one person that we don't want after us, it's Will Smith. That one I actually would be a little worried about.
You know what? Will Smith can bring it too. What was the last good movie Will Smith came out with? Somebody tell me the last really good movie with Will Smith that you actually paid money to watch. Hang on a minute, I'll wait.
Oh dear.
I'm still not hearing any commentary. We're all supposed to be afraid of this fucking guy. What's the last movie that Will Smith came out with?
Yeah, that's why we're not saying anything.
Right. We're all supposed to be scared of him. He hasn't come out with any movies in the past, like, what? Nobody wanted to see Suicide Squad. That movie that he was in won an Oscar. That means nobody saw it. Just a council of old people that wanted to see it. Who saw it?
Wait, that movie didn't win anything, did it?
It did. He won the Oscar for King James, whatever the hell that movie's about. Him playing tennis.
That's different. I thought you were talking about for Suicide Squad. They're like, there's no way that movie got anything.
That one, Jack.
I
That one,
remember
worst movie of the year.
Oh, we forgot about. Okay, this is reminding me of another thing. Okay, so I remember him trying to sing in the Aladdin remake.
You just had to bring
you
back
saw that?
horrific
We just
thing.
opened up. We've got another hour left.
No. We already hit the 2-hour mark. We're already hit the 2-hour mark too. So.
Aladdin. The trauma. Why, Disney? The devil hath wronged me again.
This might be a two-parter.
This is
King Richard, Serena Williams' father. There we go. Did anybody pay to watch that? That's the question. Who paid to watch that? No, nobody.
Aladdin?
crickets.
Nobody paid to watch Aladdin either. Or King Richard. Or Suicide Squad. Or that movie with Margot Robbie I don't even know the name of. That dude hasn't had a hit in almost 10 years. So you know what? He can bring it. He can come over here and slap me all he wants. I'll do the thing that a poor person does. I'll sue. All right?
I mean, I feel like the fact that he hasn't had a hit in 10 years might make him more dangerous.
Does it? He's not dangerous.
Morley Gray, you're in a safe space. Don't look into the Aladdin remake. Just don't.
No, she knows of it. She's just pretending it doesn't exist. Nobody consumes Disney like that one. I don't know that shit. All right. On this note, Jamie Lee Curtis is a bitch. That's my sign-up time for the rest of this time. That remake sucked. That Fresh Prince remake sucked. They made Uncle Phil a mobster, okay? Uncle Phil was the positive sitcom TV dad when I was a kid, and they made him a gang-banging mobster in that goddamn terrible remake trying to be Black Dynasty. That was a terrible goddamn choice to remake the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I can't even say the words that I'm blind and rage. That was a terrible idea. They should have done something else. They should have continued the series so we find out what happened to Will after that house. He was left abandoned in that house. See, you want Will Smith? You want a piece of me? Come after me. I will tell you how to fix your shit right now. Give me a sequel series to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I want to know what happened to you when they emptied out that house and you were left with nowhere to live. That's what the end of that show was. I want to see it. Fucking. On that note, fuck Will Smith and Jamie Lee Curtis is a bitch. Gentlemen, closing thoughts.
Can that be the episode?
That's the episode. This has been the Ghastly Hallows. Oh boy.
Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video.